Oh, George, you hear me?
Yeah,
How are you? Welcome to Crew Call Live. I want you to, I'm sorry that I am not in my normal regular environment, but due to the beautiful storms that we've had in New York, I have no power in my house today. So without power, I ended up having to do a plan B, and I'm at my wonderful Ossining Public Library. So the Ossining Public Library allowed me to make this thing still happen and bring you in today. Uh, George Hulk Rothweiler is one of the legends of CBS sports. Your career, I think, was over 40 years with CBS, which is amazing to be with one company for that long. But how I wanted to start was I was going to talk about, you know, all the things. I'm going to go through a lot of what you did, but um, the thing that I wanted to show, if I can, was when you we started talking about this. I asked you to send me some pictures, and you sent me a picture um, from early in your career, and I have never seen a camera like this before. So I really want to start with this. I'm going to show you this picture. All right, let me open it
that's
up. That
that's an RC. That's an RCA. I'm hearing feedback. I don't know why that is.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. It was the TKP. What was it? TKP 45A or something.
So that one of the first handheld cameras that you operate on? How heavy was that thing?
It was pretty. It was. You got to turn my volume back.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know why I'm getting feedback. I may have to get off this one speaker because of the feedback. Um, Actually, that was a camera that we rented from a company in Philadelphia. I forgot what the name of the production company was, and that's a handheld they had on board, TKP 45A. It was very front heavy, had a 10-to-1 lens, and there was no electric zoom on it, so I had to take a pipe clamp and wrap it around the barrel of the lens and have a little rod there so I could focus it while I was zooming and whatnot. So it was kind of crazy. But we had the Norelco PC-70 at CBS, and that was pretty heavy. That came with a big backpack and everything. So when I was only 21 years old in that picture, as you could see, my hair was pretty red.
That's a great hair. Great hair.
That was hair, right? I had a brace built for the Norelco camera because the backpack was pretty heavy, and they'd only give you two utility guys. So if I carried it, then I'd have two guys on my cable. And we really used that camera a lot down in Texas at WKDFW. Used to use their rental truck years ago. And we'd only send three guys down to Texas during the mid 70s. We didn't send full crews. They didn't put eight crews together until, I don't know, probably 82, 83. But the camera was pretty heavy.
Now, I want to hear how you got your start in the industry because you got your start at one of the interesting places. Uh, you were the at the RCA Institute, which I don't even know if still exists anymore.
It probably changed its name many times. It was the RCA Institute Television Production School. It was a 4-month course in Manhattan. I was telling you last night that I graduated high school in 72 of June, started the broadcasting school September of 72, graduated December of 72, got my first job at New Jersey Public Television February of 73 as a trainee. And I worked there. It was a state operated station. We had 4 UHF stations throughout New Jersey. And we had a remote truck. We did everything the network does. And when I was interviewed at CBS, I told the gentleman that the only difference between where I am today, New Jersey Network, and where I hope to be tomorrow is how much you're going to pay me. Because the work's the same. The camera work is always going to be the same no matter who's directing it or what show you're doing it. We're painters, cameramen, you know that.
Yeah.
Every camera guy paints a different picture. Everybody's instincts are different. So I worked
Now,
there.
did you end up getting a light? Did you have to get it? Because like a lot of guys in this business don't realize that the early engineers had to get an RCA. You were getting a license, right? You had in order to be in the broadcast, you had to get a broadcast license, right?
Well, at that school, you didn't need any license. When I worked for New Jersey Public Television, being that I was under production, I didn't need a second class or a first class FCC license at the time. So I worked there for some February 73 until July of 75. And then we heard CBS was hiring. was like their second generation of hires because all the guys that were hired, the World War II vets in the 1950s, they were getting of age where CBS, because they had no freelance hires, it was staff only. They had to start replenishing their staff. And they hired me at 21 years old after having only 2 years experience in the industry. And I had to go through 3 levels of interviews to get the job. And they did ask me if I had a CBS. At the time, you had to have a second class FCC license, and I didn't have one. And I said to the gentlemen that were interviewing me, I said, how, in the eyes of a producer director, I mean, they don't care if I have an FCC license. They only care about what I bring across through my lens. You know what I'm saying? To the producer and director, they don't care about an FCC license. But I would say when we were transitioning from film to video for WCBS Channel 2, you needed a license to run their transmitter trucks. And there were a few times that they sent me over there because I was a handheld guy at the time to do local news. And let me tell you, those guys, they're worth every nickel they pay them because every day is a bad day. There's never a good day doing local news. You know, network news is a whole different animal.
Is that what led you to venture to sports? What actually led you to wanting to do sports?
Well, we were only on loan at WCBS. You know, I was in studio show crews, which enabled you to do, you know, soap operas, game shows, or whatever they had in the inventory. But I was really designated to go to sports with Steve Gorsuch. Gorsuch and I were hired the same day. And as they were trying to work us in, because we had to be accepted by the producers and directors. We were unknown people. They didn't know if we could do it or not. And back then, everything was done by the directors wanting certain people on their crews to do certain things. So you kind of work your way in. And my first director was Bob Fishman. Worked with him for a while, and then he passed my name on.
Another legend, Hall of Fame. I mean, you drop Bob Fishman's name like he's a Hall of Fame director.
Oh, yeah.
Many credits to his name, but he was a cameraman's director. You have to say that, right? He nurtured guys.
Without it, he was the nicest director I've ever worked with. And any of the freelancers that came on our football crew in the last few years of our career, I would always tell them, you've never worked with this guy before, but he makes everybody feel so comfortable. He's learning you, you're learning him as the game progresses, and he will never yell at you. He's always very constructive. I was very fortunate to work for 3 Hall of Fame directors, Frank Chirkinian on golf and the US Open tennis, and Sandy Grossman for all the NBAs that we did during the 80s and early 90s, as well as his football and some of his Olympic shows. So I worked with some good directors, man.
Well, that's part of it, right? Building relationships with these directors and having a chance to, you know, for them to know you and know your work. And then, you know, there's a trust factor there, right? So you built trust with a lot of these guys, and that led to a career that, you know, brought you around the world pretty much, right? I mean, you've been to a lot of different places.
Well, I always said one thing about camera operators, male or female, you know, we're all cut out of the basic same mode, but everybody has different instincts and desires. And you can't teach instinct and you can't teach desire. I was a jock all my life. I played sports. I still play a lot of sports. And you need hand and eye coordination, instincts, and desire. And you just can't teach it. These producers and directors, if I'm directing a show, let's face it, a live event, they're not directing, they're selecting. They're selecting the shots from their camera operators who they handpicked. You're doing a football game, they can't see what's going on. You're their eyes. You have to be paying attention to the announcers and having that desire to go after everything, no matter what the weather is. It could be sunny, it could be rainy or whatever. And that's how you build a reputation of somebody that's, you know, giving 1,000% all the time. And if I was a director, I'd want that type of individual.
Well, how did it work back in the day with CBS when it came to assignments with the director? Like, you know, you guys were all staff. He would bring you guys in. How did you figure out which camera you wanted to do? How did you find your way onto the slow-mos? Because, I mean, you made a career of being one of the guys that was willing to, I mean, let's face it, you know, when you're a camera guy and you're developing your skills and you get to the level where you're going to start, and you were working with, at that time, the most advanced equipment that was CBS was one of those companies that wanted to try new equipment. So you were one of the first guys to work with HD, super slow-mos, all these innovative things. But, you know, it takes somebody to raise their hand and be like, hey, I want to be the one to be on that, you know?
Well, from 75, from the day I started there until probably 85, 85. The first time CBS used the Sony Super Slow Mo 90 frames per second was at the Denver Giants Super Bowl in Pasadena. I got a call from Sandy Grossman saying, listen, we got this new camera, the Super Slow Mo, I want you to do it. And at the time I was doing a low end zone camera. He didn't know what to expect out of it. I didn't know what to expect because I wasn't geared to thinking 90 frames versus 30. And now we're shooting, 500, 750, 1,000 frames a second. It's like, very archaic in my day, but you learned a lot. You saw a lot more information with that high-speed camera. And when I first started, because I was younger, they put me on handheld camera. So, you develop your skill there. And then myself and Davey Finch were always winding up on the final football crews. And, he's a Hall of Fame guy and he's a good camera guy. So Sandy Grossman didn't know what to do. Do I do near side? Does he do far side or vice versa? Because back then we didn't have cameras on the other side of the axis, on the other side of the field. If you saw a replay from the reverse golf cart, they always had to put the chyron in there that said reverse angle. I never understood why they had to say that, but it's a replay. So Sandy decided he was going to move me to low end zone. So normally his regular season he normally had one low end zone, but for the playoffs he had two. So I did the other low end zone, and then I guess he liked what he saw out of me versus the guy that he had, and he made the change the following year. And then I started doing low end zone until I retired in 2019.
How many Super Bowls did you do with Sandy?
I did every one at CBS. My first one, it was Super Bowl 12 in New Orleans. It was Dallas against Denver, and that was directed by Tony Verna, another great director. And then after that, it was Sandy Grossman for many Super Bowls. And then when he left the Fox, Larry Cavallina did one or two. Mike Arnold did a couple that I worked with them. My only regret is that they never had Fishman never had an opportunity to do a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I know that was a big. He had his career at CBS, and everybody had hoped that one of those chances, because his work on the Final Four, his work on college football, his work at the U.S. Open was always incredible. So getting a chance to maybe do another great, put another notch under his storied career would have been great for him. I mean, and I think he would have done an amazing job.
Well, he did the World Series with us the last 2 years of the contract that we had back in the late 80s. But people would be telling me, because I was very close to Bob, and all the guys knew that, people would say, oh, he's going to do the Super Bowl next year. Mike Arnold's not going to do it. But why would you want to replace Mike Arnold or any of the directors that was doing it? Mike Arnold did a good job, but everybody like Bob Fishman, they figured, gee, he's such a nice guy. Why isn't he getting a Super Bowl? It's all about timing.
Yeah, I mean, those opportunities. I mean, I don't think I don't know if he has a personal regret with his career. I mean, I think he had an amazing career. I mean, I think more so for the a guy's, I don't know if we're ever going to be judged on the highlights that we think of all the careers. I think more of us will be judged on the people that we helped, and he helped a lot of people. More people say nice things about Bob Fishman, about him being just a great guy and a guy that nurtured. Our industry is tough sometimes. We're in sports is live. A lot of pressure there, and there is nobody in this business that hasn't made a mistake here or there. But you learn from those mistakes, and he's the type of guy that allowed you to learn from those mistakes and didn't hold it against you, and knew that the next time you'd be better because of those mistakes. So that was amazing. Now, what's interesting to me, I wanted to find out, was because during those years, you had Olympics, World Series. I mean, how did you know, or did you know what your year was going to be like? Did you kind of pick and choose, or did you have a choice of where you were going to go?
I never picked and choose. The producers and the directors pretty much decided where we went. But during I did the Daytona 500 from the first year that we did it in '79, but the Olympics always fell during Daytona 500. But the priority in the eyes of management was that I should go to the Olympics, and they'd have other people come in to do the Daytona 500. My season basically was NFL football in September. As we hit January and the football was concluding, I would segue over to do the NBA with Sandy, so I'd stay with Sandy. Then it was a lull in the action. I'd go out and do golf in California with Frank Chikinian. Then it segue back to golf most of the rest of the year, and then back into football. Then baseball came in the mix. So I was jockeying between doing regular season baseball and some golf, and then rotating between NFL football and baseball. I do
Because
again.
why I ask is interesting to me because you guys were staff guys, and staff, that really doesn't exist anymore. And so it's so much different now. The workforce shifted into more freelance now, and you saw that change. I mean, well, you retired at what, 2019, right? You took a
Yeah.
buyout in 2019, and a lot of guys didn't make it past the pandemic. Once that happened, they had the opportunity to leave. They took those opportunities.
Well, you could see the freelance world was coming into our world. You have to remember, years ago in the film industry, the movies, they had staff camera guys, and eventually it all went to like a freelance type environment. And we saw the freelancers coming in, and when the freelancers came in our world, some of them had a tough time because a lot of the staff guys, mainly the first generation guys, they were the hardline union guys. They didn't believe in freelancers and whatnot. But my particular group, we knew of the freelance world. They weren't in our company yet, but they were coming. Not that it was a bad thing. And when they came in, they were treated like shit. Guys weren't helping them. Why should I train you? You're here to replace me. So it took a while until the older guys retired, and a lot of us embraced a lot of the freelancers. And, I used to just sit back and watch the freelancers come in and see what kind of guys and gals they were. Did they come in with an attitude that they were better than us? How was the mix? And, I never had a problem with the freelancers. I tried to get along with them all because I represented them in union negotiations towards the end because it
Well,
really.
that's why I kind of wore my union jacket to represent because I think that that's part of being like, the one thing about guys who've had a career is, you get known for your work and you're definitely known for the work that you did. But you're also equally known for what you did for the craft and protecting our industry and always being a guy to step up there because you're right, you deal with a company, they're talking about finances and we have to represent, the value of what we do for a living. And you were one of the guys that made sure that you stood up. I mean, it's hard to be at a table, at a union negotiating table with these management companies who've never really been on site and see the work that goes in or have an understanding of how that work is even accomplished. They all know the product. We all know how to turn on the TV and watch a game or whatever else, but they don't see the layers and layers of personnel and work and equipment and coordination and go into all that.
Well, the union, the IBW Local 1212 in New York, where I was a assistant to the business manager for many years, they started bringing me out to negotiations in the early 80s when I was 22, 23 years old. And I just sit in quarterly meetings and negotiations and just listen. And after a while, I understood that, what, our union rules are made for a reason. I'm still a company man. The priority has always been company, union, and then get involved with the process. And I did get involved with the process being a supervisor and a union leader. And, it's really, my wife would always say to me, why do you stick your neck out to do what you do? You're kind of like a made man, well, why are you doing that? You're only going to get a black eye. Instinctively, I always felt like the first generation guys were good to me. They guided me, they helped me. So it was now my turn to help my brothers who were staff as well as the freelancers coming in because the staff, we were 100%, then it went down to 50%, now we're 20%. At the end, it was like 7 of us, but I was still representing the freelancers. But you have no idea what it's like to go to negotiations and staring across the table at you is Ken Agart, my
Yeah,
boss.
Ken Hager, another Hall of Famer. But what he's done post CBS is also incredible. Being one of the guys who founded the SVG group and all those, they've done a lot of more recognition of our industry. But one thing about Ken had a lot of respect for your guys, his guys. He called the CBS guys were his guys. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
without a doubt. But one thing about Kenny, he knows the business. He always tried to do the right thing. He and I have had some great animated conversations, but he always tried to do the right thing. And I never backed down. He never backed down. And we both found common ground on issues that was beneficial to the freelancers coming in because they needed the help of the staff guys to elevate their standard of living. And I always felt, why aren't they getting the same thing I'm getting? They're doing the same work that I'm doing. They're traveling every week. That goes for the studio as well as the field. And we got him at a pretty good level. I must say, I feel good about it. When I walked away, I said, I did as much as I could. Hopefully, I made a few friends along the way in management. But the thing about the management is it's my company as much as the management's company. I was there for 45 years, and a lot of the management guys never lasted more than 10 or 15. So I was well
Yeah,
informed.
I think a lot of these companies don't understand too how many people, like you've spent 40 years, you obviously were invested in this company. You don't want that company to do, like you're there negotiating the value of your work, and it's not at the detriment of the company. Like I think they have to understand that you're not trying to take money out of their pocket. You're trying to let them know that, hey, the more that you compensate me, the more I will work that we do will be, there is something to that, that it's like, it's almost like the quality that you expect in production. What they say, shit in, shit out. If you don't, if you don't, if you, what you get what you pay for. You want the best, like CBS, most of these networks, they've always had, you talk of CBS, the Tiffany network, right? There was a certain, the Masters, they're known for a handshake agreement. Like, that's a company.
Well, yeah, that's from the upper management level. But the thing that I learned about coming to CBS is that they got the nickname the Tiffany Network because of the class that we brought to wherever we went. There were many times we go into a football stadium or a basketball arena or for a golf course, and the management on site that would bring us in was always happy to see CBS because we treated them well. We followed their rules. We were visitors in their home, especially Augusta National. You really had to mind your P's and Q's when you did the Masters. But going into a football stadium, we followed their rules because it wasn't our house. And that's why we were successful. We tried to be classy when we traveled. The staff guys always, not that we dressed up in a jacket and tie, but we always looked presentable because we were representing the CBS television network. That was the primary goal. Whereas when the freelancers started coming in, they were showing up on airplanes wearing cutoff shorts, ratty t-shirts, and it's a little embarrassing. We weren't used to seeing that. So,
Yeah, that was a different change. I mean, there was a time where, I mean, it was, I have to say, like, you're a guy that came up through the ranks of, like education. You had a path that you wanted to find. You had an interest. You went into the RCA Institute. You took a course. But at a time in the industry, there was a need for engineering people and there was a need for them to, and a lot of the way people learn is by exposure. You're there. So for a lot of these truck guys who started out as truck drivers, ended up becoming some engineering guys and camera
yeah.
guys along the place. And those two worlds almost didn't mix sometimes, you felt, because like you said, you guys had, were used to being represented and wanted to be represented and wanted to be presented a certain way as a camera guys. I mean, when I look back at a lot of the, I mean, I'm in the CBS broadcast center sometimes, and you walk around and you see the photos of this all over the decorations. But when you look in the background and you see a cameraman behind a camera somewhere, you see him dressed up in a shirt, a collared shirt,
Yeah.
normal, sometimes with a tie.
Yeah, well, that was the 50s leading into the 60s, but then things changed. When I came to CBS, I always wore nice slacks and shoes, but the first couple days I was there, they were sending me down to field shop to offload a couple of trucks coming in. So now you're getting grungy and dirty. So now you're segueing into wearing jeans and sneakers because of what you might be doing. Because I was unassigned. Now, if I was assigned to a soap opera, then of course you can wear, the appropriate clothes to be in there. When I did the Late Show with David Letterman for the 22 years, standing on stage in front of 400 people, I always made sure that I wore show black, but black jeans that were not faded, not ripped, and a nice appropriate shirt or whatever, because you high priced talent there. You don't know who's sitting in the audience, and Dave could be a problem if you're not looking professional out there, and you want to be a pro. Everybody knows camera operators. If you tell somebody, who do you work for? You say CBS. Oh, he must be a cameraman. Well, we're just one little spoke on the big TV wheel.
So
So,
you mentioned Letterman. So how does a guy who's on the road doing sports get lured into the Letterman world?
well, it was funny. The first director was Hal Gurney, and we heard that the show was coming over, that Hal was going to interview cameramen for the Late Show. And I said, wow. And Hal Gurney had a great career. He did Jack Parr show. So he did a lot of big shows. He wasn't one of these fly-by-night directors. He had good cred. And I said, gee, I'd love to be interviewed by him just to see what type of questions he would ask me. Could I hold my own? Because I always took pride in my ability of knowing lenses and cameras and lighting and all that stuff. And I wanted to see if he could really get me. Well, one of the vice presidents found out that I wanted to go for the interview and he denied me the opportunity. I didn't necessarily want to do the late show, but how I got on the late show is that he was doing a lot of extra cameras out on 53rd Street. And I was sent over there a couple of times to fill in. And next thing I know, they asked me if I wanted to do every Tuesday night. Hal retired. Jerry Foley took over, the late Jerry Foley, and he liked me. And he kept me on the show every Tuesday night that I was available. So my week went fly home on Monday for my football, go to Letterman Tuesday and maybe Wednesday. If not Wednesday, I'm off Wednesday. Then Thursday, I would fly out to my football crew to get them organized and start set up to do that. So I was working a lot of hours, but the loyalty thing for me is tough to break because I'm very loyal to Jerry because, they're paying me
Jerry
a pretty,
Foley, director for, he was actually the TD, but when the show was at NBC, and then when it came over to CBS, he got the opportunity to direct, right? And then
yeah.
he was a great guy. He won Emmys for his work there at CBS for that show, and tragically died a couple of years, and it was a horrible skiing accident, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But great guy, and
Good sense of humor.
yeah, and I strongly recommend people who, if you're watching this, you Google him on YouTube, Jerry Foley, director. There's a couple of great pieces on him on YouTube that talk. He's a New York guy, 100%, and
Yeah.
it's well worth the time to go look it up and check it out.
No, it's really sad because when I retired, there would only really be two directors that I want to do anything on the outside of. That would be Foley or Bob Fishman. And I was asked many times to do things with Foley, but once I retired, you lost that desire. Not that I lost the ability, but I lost the desire to want to do it. I did it for 47 years. That's a long time. And all the
Now,
years in
yeah,
the wait.
47 years is a long time. Now, I want to ask, just because it's been 47 years, and you said you had no desire to come back. Just looking at the industry now, because you kind of walked away when streaming really wasn't the thing yet. Now streaming is everything. What are your thoughts on where the world, I mean, broadcast over the air? I mean, that's what we call it, over the air, but is it over the air? I don't even know.
To me, it doesn't really matter. If I'm doing a show, it could be fed to all the Sunoco stations on I-95, closed circuit. Doesn't matter. When you well know, when you're on camera, you're Leroy Neiman. You're painting a picture. You do a good job. Where they air it, I don't care where they air it. Doesn't really matter. The streaming doesn't affect, I think, a camera operator and what he's doing. It's not going to change.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't change the job, but it just has changed the industry. I mean, the two things that I think have changed this industry the most are streaming and gambling. I mean, gambling. Would you have ever thought in your day that there'd be like sports books, people can gamble at games, and like that's nuts. For
Yeah, I've never gotten into gambling. I don't play cards, but there were guys on the crew that would, bet on games on the outside. But the gambling thing, boy, it really opens up Pandora's box for a lot of bad things. But
Yeah, I know, I know. I don't know if it's
money,
good for I don't know if it's good for the industry and sports and everything else, but or society, but it is what it is. Now, in your career, like you said, you've done the Olympics, basketball, football, college football, all these different things, all these different. Was there a favorite? The Masters, golf, PGA, Pebble Beach. Was there a favorite? If they said you can come back and do one more gig, one more job in that calendar, which one would it be?
that's a good question. I was fortunate to do the NBA with Sandy Grossman during the 80s, all those Boston, LA NBA finals. I did all of those, and we wound up doing LA, Detroit, then LA, Portland, Detroit. I don't know. They all have their pluses and minuses. I enjoyed all of them. Golf was fun, but after from my personal feeling is golf to me was the easiest to do. Yeah, plenty of light. You don't have any depth of field issues. If a camera person can't follow a ball in the sky, then they're not really a camera operator. You know what I'm saying? I found it to be boring. Sometimes it just wasn't as much fun. A lot of time away, but then the air time increased. We used to do 2 hours on a Saturday and Sunday, and then we started doing cable on Thursday and Friday for USA Network. But it was only 2 hours, and we didn't have RF cameras, so we could only go back maybe to the 10th hole, depending on what golf course we were at, with the triax cables, because the cameras couldn't go any further than that. But then they increased the amount of hours. We started going with one or two, three, four, five, six RF cameras. So now you're doing the entire course. So you're on camera all day long. And after a while, it just wears you down. Maybe I was getting older, but it just wears you down. But to me, it wasn't really a big challenge. When you do an NBA and you got 10 guys jockeying all around, I'm shooting high speed, I'm shooting tight this, you're focusing, you're fully concentrated. Same with football. You got 22 guys running around the field, and you got to worry about the special teams coach, this guy and that guy. And you're always busy, busy, busy. But golf, you're sitting there, you're waiting, and you're waiting. And I'll tell you one thing. When Nicholas won the Masters in '86, I was doing a 17th green, and he's coming up the fairway now, shooting 17 at Augusta at that time of the day, 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm shooting right into the sun. So basically, Nicholas is just silhouetted. All you see is, I just see a body there. I can't really see his face because he's heavily backlit. And his son is on the caddy, being his caddy. And, it's father and son. It's pretty emotional. And I kept thinking to myself, when he hits his ball, you better have it in frame, but you're kidding, it's just going to kill me. And fortunately, he did it. He came in, and that was the yes, sir shot that Vern Lundquist called. I don't know if you remember
Wow.
that shot when Nicholas birdied 17. But you think about that was the only time it was a real challenge. You really couldn't screw up. Um,
Do
I
you
did
feel that? Did you always recognize the moments when they came, or did you try to live through it?
well, probably later on. Now I think back when I watch highlights of the NBA, this Celtics, Boston, and I go, wow, that was history. Because back then, I could walk in the Boston Celtic locker room and all the guys knew me because we did so many games. I'd walk in because we had a cable drop in the locker room, and I'd walk in. Casey Jones he'd wave me in, come on in. Well, you couldn't do that now with security the way it is, but get to know these guys. And they were a great series. The NFL I love doing the NFL too. College football was different because the low end zone positions were always horrible at a college, most college stadiums in the late 70s, early 80s. And the hash marks are further apart. The NFL, they're close. The NFL college are a lot wider, so the angles are different. But all in all, I have no regrets. I really pretty much enjoyed doing everything we did. It's just that, golf ate up a lot of time. A little
Now,
boring at times.
obviously, the name Hulk was because you've stayed in good shape. You're still in great shape. I mean, you still probably go to the gym on a regular basis. You were always a strong man. You weren't afraid of hard work. And I think a lot of people who try to get into this business don't realize that, studio camera work is challenging on its own. It's work. It's definite work. It's mind. It's
Right.
focus. It's all of that. But it's not the physical labor that's involved in sports work. Now, let's talk a little bit about that workload because I think, like obviously we talked about the unions arguing about, the value of the work that we do. As a camera guy, now that you're not in the business not doing the work anymore, how do you really feel about all the stuff that we have to carry and lift and everything else? Do you feel like there should be more utilities on the shows? Do you think it's okay for the camera guys to have to hump all this stuff? And, because I see it now that a lot of our guys, like, you're in great shape and you aged well, but there are guys who have hip issues, back issues, shoulder issues, all these other things. And I always felt like, we're skilled labor. We are labor, but we're
Right.
skilled labor. And, there's a difference between, skilled labor and some of the physical labor. I'm not opposed to doing the physical labor part of it, but there's always been that issue about how much of it we have to do, like, humping the cables, the truck stuff. There's a lot to that. How do you feel about it now?
Well, I always told my crew on setups, even the local utilities that we hired, that when we're setting up, we're all utility guys. I'm not a cameraman. I'm a supervisor. I have to hump cables and, get monitors up to the booth. And when the show is over, the same thing. We're all utility guys. Now, do we need more? Yeah, well, it depends on the show. A normal football, I think that CBS had the right amount of people to do the job. Years ago, everybody pitched in. As time went on, I never saw the tape guys out helping us build cameras. Where in the 70s, when we get to a show, the tape guys are going with two camera guys to hump a camera up to the high end zone position. So everybody was chipping in. We'd all run cables together. That started to wane at the end because we got rid of the Triax cable and we went to the SMPTE cable or the fiber cable, and that made the workload a little bit easier. But I learned something a long time ago. You're a professional cameraman, but you're really an athlete out there who happens to be a camera operator, and you needed to be in shape. And that's why I always started working out with the weights and lifting, because there was a lot of heavy lifting back in them. The graphic keyboards that are now built into the trucks were in these heavy cases that we had to lift up and put in house trailers. And it was a lot of heavy lifting back then, using the TV81 cable, the multi-core cable on the older cameras. It was a lot of humping. So you really had to stay in great shape.
Well, that
And
was also back in that time of the industry. CBS owned their own trucks for a long, long time, right? They had their own fleet.
yeah,
Now we see it all. It's a different world. Everything is Game Creek or NEP and NMT or Domes. There's all these different truck companies. But for a while there, the networks owned their own trucks.
they did. And we used to have reelers of 500-foot triax cables on them. But, being out on the road, you really have to take care of yourself. Everybody has their own way of doing things on the road. They go out partying, go out drinking, or whatever they do. But I wasn't really one of those guys. Give you an example. We'd check into the hotel. Guys would go to lunch. I'd go down to the weight room, fling the iron around for an hour, and to come back and then have a nice dinner and get plenty of rest. Because if you don't get your rest, it's going to wear you down. You can't maintain being on the road for 40 years and getting fat and over out of shape. I play pickleball 3 days a week now. I lift 3 days a week, and I play softball 2 days a week. So you're staying active. I'm 72 years old, but even my kids say you don't look like a normal 72-year-old guy. It's like any athlete. We have a lot of out of shape people on the road, and it's a very physical job.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that parlayed into your longevity. I mean, you stayed in shape and knowing what you did, you maintained that. How hard was it for you talk about your kids and stuff like that, the sacrifice? Because I want people to understand that, sports is a wonderful profession to work in, but the reality is it's nights, weekends, and holidays. So, it's not the regular 9 to 5 job that people are going to expect. So how is that sacrifice? You were on the road. What was, how many weeks a year were you on the road for?
I would say between 150 and 200 during some years. It puts a big stress on the family. I've only been married once, and she's terrific. And we have 2 sons that never fell off the rails, and they do work in a business. My oldest son works at MLB as a graphics operator at Sea Caucus, and my younger son works in our engineering construction department at CBS. I'm glad they didn't want to become camera operators, because the comparison would always be there. Oh, he's not like his father. Maybe they wouldn't give him the fair shake. He's got the job because of his father. So fortunately, they didn't become camera operators.
Yeah, but I don't think I was talking to Paul Harvath last week. He's the TD for the Fox World Series. His dad is a cameraman. Mike Harvath.
Yeah.
I think a lot of why you see legacy guys, kids in this industry whose parents it's because of exposure. They grew up around the business. They grew up around they see how much you enjoyed your work. They see how much fulfillment you got out of it. They got a chance to actually be able to see where you were. As your kids, were they also following along? And did you come back home? They talked to you and they recognized what you were doing and something like that. Did you have those experiences?
Yeah. When I was home, I was home. I didn't go out partying or seeing all the guys, but I never talked about the job when I got home, because it was more family time. And the wives, it's a big sacrifice. There are a lot of negatives in doing what I did. Um, you're away on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. The stress of telling your wife you have to be away for 4 or 5 straight weeks, because sometimes I would go from one producer to another producer, back-to-back shows. I do the Final Four regional, then do the Final Four, and then go to the Masters, then do another golf tournament after. So it could be 4 weeks away from the family. Fortunately, my wife Linda was able to handle all of that, but it does put stress on. I didn't see a lot of their little league games as time went on. When we lost football for the 4 years, we had college football, so I was able to get home sometime Saturday night, and I was able to watch my sons play Pop Warner football. So there are tremendous positives and there are tremendous negatives, and it's not for everyone. A lot of guys have been divorced. I'm sure you know a lot of guys who were divorced for a lot of
Yeah, I
different
know
reasons.
the business is rough, but I mean it's the reward of what you do, but it's finding that work-life balance. You did a great job of finding a work-life balance. That's important for, I don't care what your profession is, you need
Right.
work-life balance. You need to make sure that, you know, the problem is, not, I don't say the problem is, but some people, they make their career their identity. You know, your job is what you do. It's not your identity. It doesn't. It's not your identity. You can be proud of what you do and your career, what you've accomplished in it, but it really doesn't truly define who you really are, what you're about. You know, then no one's gonna. I just don't feel like that's the case. I mean, you know, you get accolades and respect and everything else because of, you know, what you do, but more of that I think is because of what you've done to help others, what you've done. You know, the one thing about our business is it's a collaborative work environment. It's not just one guy. You're always,
Oh yeah.
like you mentioned earlier.
It's a team of camera operators. But let me just tell you, audience, that the name Hulk was not an ego thing that I gave myself. As most people realize, when you're in a remote truck, every camera has an output, and on that monitor they put a name. And everybody had kind of a nickname by certain directors. And Frank Chakinian just put down Hulk one time, and it stuck. And once you get a nickname, it's tough to get rid of it. And it stuck so much that even at negotiations, senior CBS management guys always called me Hulk. Very few ever called me George. It was amazing. And some people say to me, "How'd you do that?" I said, "I didn't do anything. It just happened. You can't get rid of a nickname. It's stuck forever." But as far as the things that I've done over the years, but as time goes on, people forget about the greatness that an individual had given a company as years go on. It's like the first generation guys who started in the 50s who did Arthur Godfrey, Jackie Gleason. A lot of us don't know what they did. The newer generation, the younger people coming in, don't know the history of where we are today. And that's the sad part.
Did you have a mentor? Was there one of those older guys that when you first got there, that young 21 CBS year old, was there guys that were good to you and said, hey, you know,
A
we
couple
see
of good
potential?
TDs, a guy named Charlie D'Onofrio, George Klimczak, a camera operator, and Frank Red McSpaden. He was the primary handheld guy back in the day. They took me under their wing, and it's funny, those guys are so good. They taught me what a professional is on the road as well as in the studio. None of them ever told me how to shoot a show. They never told me how to do a football game or a basketball game. Like I said earlier, if you're going to be good, it's because you have great instincts and you're fearless on camera. I was never afraid of being out of focus on anything. I was never afraid of shooting tight and losing focus. You have a great deal of confidence, not cockiness, but just confidence in whatever role you play on a particular crew. You could be the greatest TD switcher in the world, or graphics operator, or a video guy who sets up the cameras perfect. So that's it.
Well, I mean, let's talk about some of the stuff that you were shooting tight with. I mean, unfortunately, I'm in the public library, but when we edit this thing, I'm going to put in some video. You shot some. I put some video out on the promo for tonight's interview. But you shot football. You have classic shots that even we remember of tight eye. Like, you know, you were the guy that took the risks of shooting players when you were the low end zone, shooting eyes, pitch follows and stuff like that. I mean, those were great shots.
Well, like I said, fortunately, I worked with some directors who I was never formatted. Yes, during certain sporting events, there were certain things I had to do at a certain time. But the rest of the time, these directors just let me go. And shooting high speed, Sandy Grossman said to me, just do your thing, whether follow it tight, just get into the nuances of the game. When John Madden first was coming on a crew, he'd be fighting with Sandy all during the day about the cameras aren't wide enough. I got to see everything wider. So John and I were pretty good buddies. And after the show, we were sitting in a truck in his bus, and I said to him, "John, understand one thing about camera operators. They're your guys." I'm getting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find you.
Yeah, when you clicked on,
Oh, you don't see that's you and John Madden right there.
yeah, we would. I would tell John, I gotta turn this off. It's driving me crazy. You know,
Did you go to Montana State? I see you
every
there.
player on the team had a different assignment. You know what I'm saying? A cornerback didn't do the same thing as a linebacker, so on and so forth. As a camera operator, I could do whatever you wanted. So I said to him, "Is there something that you need to see that you haven't seen before?" So he thought about it for a while, and he told me a lot of things. He says, "You know what? Joe Montana, when he comes out of the huddle and he's over his center, he has a tremendous, great horizontal view of the field. He sees the whole field. So we're going on to the game, and one particular play, I could really get in tight, and I followed him really tight on high speed. And as he's rolling out, his eyes opened up really big, and he threw the pass, and so on and so forth. Well, when the replay came back, Madden just loved it because now he got what he was looking for. Little differences between being a wide shot guy and a tight guy.
Yeah, you were
Mike
able to fit in
Singletary,
the
Isaac shot
storylines,
them a
right?
lot over the
Those
years.
are the shots that
I
feed the
think I'm losing you.
stories, right?
I think I lost the audio.
Did you lose it?
Try, try.
Did you got me, George?
Yep. So I always tried to work with all the analysts, work with Billy Packer for a lot of years on the Final Four, Tommy Heinsohn and Hugh B. Brown on the NBA to pick their brains, to find out what they're looking for in the game, because all these analysts always come in thinking about certain things. And I always felt I needed to know that. So I'd always have little conversations with these guys to see what they're thinking.
Before the game, so that
Yeah.
you were going into the game having an idea of what, so that way when these guys met, you kind of were leading already. That's actually really, really smart because we're always trained to follow the announcers, but when you have a relationship with these announcers, it's nice to know, to get a little precursor to be like, hey, we're going to be watching the defensive players, a couple of guys here, because we have a feeling that these guys might do something, because that makes you think in the back of your head, you can pick up on something that might happen off the ball or whatever. You're more aware of those things now because you want to feed those lines to him.
Well, my tape operator for 90% of the things that I did was Michael Nathanson. He's a tech manager at Fox Now. He went with me everywhere, and he was
I
a
know,
great
Mike.
salesman. He could edit. He just built beautiful packages that just blew them away. We were doing a Final Four, and Billy Packer would be sitting right next to me, and I gave him a special feed of the output of my tape machine. So we would be doing things, and sometimes we'd see something, and I'd say, Billy, take a look at the monitor. And he'd look at it, holy cow! So he would say something to our producer, like, "Hey, do you have whatever, whatever?" Yeah, and Nate would play it back, and we would feed Billy stuff so he could get it into the show. It's
That's
not.
wild.
Yeah, I
That's wild.
know. It worked. It worked for a long time.
The Final Four, the Masters, the amount of credits do you have? Those shows? Were there meetings? How were those camera meetings for some of those shows? Did you have a procedure that you followed when you showed up for some of those things?
Well, at the camera meetings for those individual sports,
Yeah.
the Final Four, I'll always have a meeting before the event. We'd go over certain players, the coaches. We'd have pictures, as you well know, pictures of everybody on the staff, just in case the announcers, would mention a certain guy who'd be there. I sat at midcourt for 30 years doing the Final Four there, so I went through a cadre of uh, analysts at the Final Four, and they were great guys. They educated me a lot, as well as the rest of the guys on the crew. On golf, we'd have meetings. When Steve Milton did the last few years, we'd have camera meetings. Jacinian never really did have camera meetings. The only thing he said to me when I was doing handheld, and because we didn't have a lot of handhelds back then, so walking out in the middle of the fairway with the golfers was like a shock to these golfers. But Frank would say to me, "Kid, go out there and make friends to build the confidence in the pro golfers that you're there not to screw her up. You'll be enough X amount of feet behind them and not get in their way and to trust you." And now it's commonplace to be walking up and down the fairways with the golfers. But in the 70s and 80s, that was all new territory.
And did it feel that way? Did it feel out of place being the first guys out there? Like
Yeah.
you knew the eyes were on you. You
Oh
knew
yeah,
that.
not a lot of the golfers embraced it. I had a lot of good golfer friends, Greg Norman, Fuzzy Zola, they all trusted him. But there was a few guys that were a problem, that no matter where you were in that fairway, you were too close to them.
Well, that's kind of funny too, because with CBS, you followed that tour. So like if they saw you one week, they would see you the next week too, right?
Right.
So it's they wouldn't forget. Like if you so how do you had to balance that out?
Well, you couldn't screw up. It's like building friends and relationships. They had to trust you. And, sometimes Frank would always ask Davey Finch to talk to the golfers as they're walking down the fairways. Okay. But you got to pick your moments, because one time Frank's yelling at me to talk to Jack Nicklaus, and I didn't talk to him because he was pissed off coming down the fairway, and I didn't want him to go crazy on me. So, Frank backed off. He goes, we have to gauge the temperature of the water sometimes. You just can't go flying in there, and you know when they're going to talk to you. They'll give you a look, hey, how are you? And then you can get something going. But I was never one to really push the interview thing. I didn't feel that that was my role. If they started talking to me, we would have a conversation. But I was always afraid to instigate a conversation because if it could backfire on you. You could say something, then later on, while the camera guy was talking to me in a fair and he distracted me, and I didn't want to go down that path, so I never really did it.
Was the golf stuff? Because I'm always fascinated by the golf because, like you said, it's daytime stuff. It's a 4-day event. The thing that about the golf that would, I think, not scared me, but was like it's a big commitment because you will go from event to event to event, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you are not going home, and you're
no.
going. What's the longest stretch you can go without going home like that? I mean, that's a lot.
I guess at the time, they never cut you off. It depends on your personal, if the wife says you can't do this anymore. And I was always trying to figure out where that Mendoza line was. You didn't want to go too far, but the rewards financially, you save a lot of money, put me in a good position now. It's a trade-off. It all depends on your spouse, your partner, whoever you're living with, to be able to accept the fact that you're away and trust you when you're away. I never got into drugs, so that was never an issue. You'd either find me at a racquetball court or in a weight room or a minor league baseball game, just staying out of trouble. Because when you're out there and you're traveling so much, trouble can come a knocking at any time.
Yeah, well, yeah, being on the road, but the
Yeah.
work, the work and the time and all that and all the travel was probably, the work is always what we love. It's the other stuff, the travel, like those are the worst stories. Being stuck here or stuck there, couldn't get here. They want to bring you there. Have you ever? What were your worst travel stories? Because you must have some travel stories that were pretty bad
Actually,
in
I got to
41
tell
years
you,
on the road.
over 45 years on the road, I don't think I might have lost my luggage once. And I always took snow delays, equipment delays in stride because it was so out of my control. I didn't want to be at the airport being all pissed off. So I kind of chill out as best I could, and not let it get to you. Because you can't let things get to you when you're on the road because it's only you. And you may hang out with a few of your close friends because a lot of guys want to go out to the bars and stay there all night or whatever. And that wasn't me. I just couldn't do that. I needed my sleep. It's the only way to
Yeah, I'm,
perform.
I'm I'm with you. I like my sleep too. I like a good meal on the road. That's
Yeah.
more my thing.
But I got to
I'm an eater, and most of the guys would probably confirm that who know me.
It
But
was fun. The first generation guys, they used to go to dinner at like 8 o'clock. They'd meet in the lobby, 8 p.m. in the lobby to go out to dinner. So you're not eating till like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I can't eat that late. So
yeah, I would say that's late. But was
yeah.
that because of set days? Were set days that bad in those days?
Yeah, we would work until a solid 6 o'clock on some of these golf tournaments. You go back, they'd always go to the bar first, have a quick drink, they go up and shower, and then they go out. But I'd get back there and I'd want to eat early. So as the transition from me being the only young guy on the crew to bringing in more people, younger, you get the old buddy system going, and you knew who you could partner up with and what guys want to go to dinner early, and that's what you do. You got to find your way out there. You got to find out what's going to keep you out of trouble and make you happy, and do the right thing.
Now, what would you tell the young guys today who are aspiring to, get into this business and do something? What do you think is the advice you'd give them after all your years doing it?
Well, I'll talk about camera because that's the one thing I know the best. Know your craft, understand lighting, understand lenses, know all the lenses that are out there and what you can achieve with them. Just know everything about your craft because chances are nobody's going to teach you. You're going to have to be self-taught. So over the years, I made friends with the two guys at Canon and Fujinon. And when new lenses came out, they'd always get in touch with me. Hey, we got new lenses. You want to demo them? Of course, I get it cleared by management and we would demo them. And just pick everybody's brain. Watch other camera operators, watch sporting events. Because when you're watching another football game, I'd watch Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. And to me, that's my experience. I'm not operating a camera, but I'm watching what everybody's doing. I see what I thought was a great shot. Could have been even better had he done this. but again, it's always instinct driven, or maybe the producer wouldn't allow the individual to do that, just to keep watching and keep learning. And, you'll eventually refine your craft.
Do you
If you have the
find
natural ability, you have to have the natural ability. I could
Yeah,
teach
no,
any,
you definitely, but that's, I think that's important. I think the important thing is getting exposed to this industry and then feeling it out and seeing where your skills can be implemented best into this industry. There's a lot I mean, we're camera guys. I'm a cameraman. You had a career as a cameraman, but cameraman is everybody knows cameraman because like obviously we're a point of sale in the business model. But
yeah.
there's a lot of other layers, in the whole thing. So like I think exposing people to the business and all the other jobs because I think a lot of people don't understand all the jobs. Like now there's people being paid to do the lines, the first and 10 lines on
Yeah.
on the crew traveling there were four guys on the last CBS Super that were just there for the graphic lines, not
Right.
even the other graphics.
Well, it's funny, not everybody's cut out to be a field camera operator. Also, we have some really great studio camera guys, but when they come out to the field, the ability, I mean, it's there, but they don't like the physicality of being a remote guy, the setting up and tearing down. When we finish Letterman taping at 5:30, you better get out of the way because the camera guys are rolling their cameras to the corners, bagging them up, and they're running out the door. They're pretty much white gloving it. But as a field guy, you're not white gloving it. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. When a football game is over, that's the halftime of our day, right?
Yeah, I know, I know. That's a lot of people think like, oh, game's over, you guys get to walk away. You're like, no, no, all that gear that was there has to go back onto that truck and then gets packed up. And that's why I mean, I've always I grew up loving football too, and I would love to have worked a Monday night football game. But the second I heard that those primetime games, you're getting out 3, 4 in the morning after teardown,
That's
that's
tough.
that's rough. They're,
In cold
that's
cold
rough.
weather. Yeah, it's not easy. I always, those guys that do those prime time games, they know what, especially up in Buffalo. I think of those guys when the game is over, I'm going to bed. They're taking a short break and they're working. I
Yeah,
know what Buffalo's like. You know what it's like working up in the old Buffalo.
everybody has a Buffalo. There's not a guy that has worked in this business in the NFL that doesn't have a Buffalo story. Buffalo has, oh my God. There are some places. I mean, talk about golf. I had only one chance to. I mean, I had more than a couple chances to work on golf, but I only had one chance to get to Pebble Beach, and I got a chance to work that event, and that was one of the most beautiful courses. And it was amazing. I didn't never got the chance to see the Masters, but I had always talked to the CBS guys for over the years, and I know I've known a lot of the CBS guys for many years, and the level of professionalism has always been like top. I mean, for sure, CBS guys, and they were known for the Masters. Just watching the way you guys worked, it was interesting to me to see how the CBS way was. It's definitely different than the way the ABC guys did the things and the way NBC
Yeah.
guys did things. Every network had a different way of doing things. I think, and you were probably part of the way that shifted that workflow, created that workflow.
Yeah, every network had a different philosophy on how they were going to televise golf. You mentioned Pebble Beach. We used to run 200,000 feet of triax cables all the way out to the 10th along the ocean there. And you could see the storms coming in off the Pacific. So we knew we really had a boogie to get all those triax cables run. And, back then in the 70s, we might have had 10 cameras on a golf. And none of them were really handheld cameras until they perfected them. And then the whole world opened up. The Masters, it's one hell of a golf course. It's unbelievable. And the thing that was always my favorite tournament because you you play on the same course every year. You knew the history almost on every hole. And they go to 15, you know what 15 is like. It's a par five, you got to shoot it over the water, the whole deal. And you know who has done very well on that hole, and you know who's done very poorly on that hole. Whereas the other US Opens, you're playing on different courses every year. So there's not a real true history on that particular course for the US Open. But
What was your assignment for golf? Were you 15?
it depends on what year and everything else. I did 17 for a while. I did the 18th green for like 18 shows when the camera operator up there had appendicitis. So Jacinian put me up there for a while. And I did mini for a lot of years. running around a golf course at 95-degree temperature was pretty invigorating. But I was a lot younger. And again, you have to stay in shape. Really, you really have to.
Yeah, people don't realize the elements, how much of an impact it can have on you. Hot, cold, rain. I mean, you're there. I mean, I'm obviously in golf, it's not going to happen with the rain and everything else, but the heat and the physicality of you're running around a lot of the times with your equipment, having to
Yeah.
get all over the place. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of work with those things.
And
Always
with
been a lot of work.
and with the handheld cameras on a rainy golf tournament, it depends on the temperature. Then you have your viewfinder fogging up on you, and the show must go on. So you're constantly trying to clean your little eyepiece viewfinder. It keeps fogging up because of the temperature difference. You put your eye in there, your eye is warm, and all of a sudden it starts fogging up on you. And production, they're just seeing the output of your camera. They don't know what's around you, what you have to do to achieve that shot. They don't know what's going on. So, you can't make excuses. They just want to see execution. Really pretty that simple.
Well, George, I got to say, I got to thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I want to have another conversation with you and some of the other guys and bring a bunch of the guys on together. I'd love to get some of the old CBS guys that have retired because there's so much knowledge in what you guys have done. And even though it was years ago, like you said, it doesn't change. It's the mentality of thinking of a cameraman and being able to pick your brain and still see you thinking like a cameraman. You don't change that way. It's like it is that thing that probably drew you to that industry and to begin with, man. But thanks for
Well,
doing this.
I really went into the business eyes wide open. I did not know what to expect when I worked at New Jersey Public Television or CBS. I just took it as it came. And you never know what avenue you're going to go down or what door is going to open. Uh, but no regrets whatsoever. I met a lot of great people, yourself, other freelancers that I would never have met had they not opened up the freelance world to CBS. It was only the staff guys. And,
Yeah.
now that we're all retired, we do still communicate to one another. And all in all, CBS always treated us well. It was a class company. I don't know what it is now. You read a lot and you hear a lot, but for newer people coming into the business, I wouldn't be able to tell them how to get into business anymore because it's changed. Everybody's gotten into the business through a different lane. I'm sure you have a certain route that you went to get into business, and I've met many people who were just friends of somebody and opened up a door. Next thing you know, they're out there working with you.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I mean, there aren't any, I'm in three different unions. You were in the IBW. There aren't apprenticeship programs or pathway programs that exist, unfortunately. The technology changes and, that's just the way the industry is. Unfortunately, um, the model was CBS was, our generation learned a lot from your generation. You're working alongside you guys, seeing the pros being pros. I'm a visual learner, watching you guys work and saying, "Oh shit, that's the way to do this." You have to really know how to set up your gear. You should really prepare your stuff. These guys. I didn't know how to. I was a camera guy, but I didn't know how to be a real professional camera guy till because I started at cable. I learned how to pan, tilt, focus, all the, I knew my equipment, but that's not being a camera guy yet. It's
Right.
learning how to think like a camera guy, learning how to see like a camera guy, learning how to listen like a camera guy. And
Goes
that
back to
really didn't happen
instincts.
until you jump on shows with people who have the experience and getting. I just feel like your careers at CBS, unfortunately, are it's never going to happen again. The staff jobs don't exist. It's a
No.
freelance workforce anymore. You'll never have, we will never have the individuals that are watching this looking to get into this industry for a career will never have a type of career that you have because it doesn't exist anymore where a company has a group of people and they keep that group of people for 40, 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah.
They just do a huge body of work together and they develop trust and they develop greatness. Like you can look back on a body of work for decades and have camaraderie with so many different people because along the way you guys stuck together. It's just sad that the industry doesn't do that. They don't want to invest in staff. They don't hire staff. It is what
No,
it is. But
no, they don't. And another good show for you would be if I was on with Davey Finch, because Davey started like 6 months after me, and we could always ricochet some great stories off of one another. Because I know in like '78, CBS did Miss America, and so they had all the heavy hitters from the '50s on the cameras and whatnot. But they had Davey and I there. They stuck Davey on a TKP 45A in the back of Convention Hall in Atlantic City, and I was out there to do E&G with Phyllis George. We interviewed the contestants who won the particular evening event, and that was our introduction, like you said before, to view what's going on. I liked watching other camera people do their thing, whether it be great camera work. If they made a boo-boo, I would remember that and learn from that. And things that they did great, I would also remember that, because that's my experience also, and that's what new kids and gals should be watching. Watch other shows, and that'll be your experience. So when you put that camera on your shoulder, you're standing behind it, a lot of those memories will pop into your head.
Yeah, it's being exposed to it. I think I was saying I was talking to some young people the other day, and I said, just, you know, find the stadiums, the in-house arenas, anywhere that's doing it, and just become a runner. Just get,
Yeah.
get on site, get on a set, get on location, be of service, and then when you're there, be helpful and talk to somebody. You build relationships, and then, I think that's
That's the
one
key,
way to start.
without a doubt. This has been great. I like talking to young people and talking to anybody about television, the pros and cons of it. There are many. And like I said, I was very proud to tell people I worked for CBS for 45 years, without a doubt, because the experiences and traveling all over the world were unbelievable, whether I
Yeah,
shot
I know.
news or whatever.
That's an amazing thing, and it's really nice that there are a lot of guys that have that type of career that put that time in, and that's what I think. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because I think, I'm happy with what I carved out with my career. I had blocks of time at different places. I learned a lot. I had
Hmm.
experiences here and there, but everybody's journey in this business will be different. My journey was never going to be the same as yours, but it's I would say it's as equally fulfilling to have my experiences as it is for you to have with your experiences. I just love getting a kick out of your experiences, because your experiences were the historical. It's just that group of network guys that were, your group of guys doing this business is and was what so many of us aspired to. You know what I mean? That was what we wanted to become, because I think that was what for me, it meant something to get to the network level. I
Yeah,
don't know what it
absolutely.
means today, but to get the first time I had a chance to work at a network, that's when I really felt like I arrived at this career. That now I'm not just doing this for it became real.
Well, I remember when you first did a football game with us with Bob Fishman at Giant Stadium. I forgot when it was, but I'm sure you were happy to work with Bob Fishman
Oh
because
my God. I had heard stories about him. I couldn't wait to work with him. And it was just what I was really impressed with him was that you don't know, in the truck, the director sits in the truck and he has monitors everywhere with all the inputs of everybody. You don't know where you sit in that
right.
placement for any director. You don't know if you're dead center. You don't know if you're in the bottom corner. You don't know where you are. He saw everybody, like he
Yeah.
saw. It was amazing to me what he picked up on, because he'd be able to give direction while something was happening here. He'd be able to talk to a camera guy there. I see what you're on. Stay on that. Like, he had vision, and it was just really impressive that. And then I had also the opportunity to just listen to him direct, because he always directed the finals at the U.S. Open tennis.
Right.
And I only worked the outer courts, but then after a while you get relief. I would do some video working, be able to go in there in the trucks and listen and do some breaks. And just getting a chance to listen to him direct was amazing experience by itself.
He just treated everybody with dignity. He never talked down to anybody. He always made you feel welcome, no matter who you are. I never heard him yell at a new guy in a crew ever. I mean, that's just his personality. He's one of those guys. It's just a natural guy. You
Yeah,
never
no, I
met
mean,
Sandy
I
Grossman, right?
think, but whether it was luck or not, you had luck that you had guys that were great enough directors and secure enough in their own skin to nurture other guys and not put all their pressure on other guys. But it also goes to show that, it's you built that trust, your work, your
Right.
dependability, the relationship was, built upon that stuff with you, which I think is, that's how it happens. I
Well, you
hope
try,
that's how things happen now.
you want to pass on, the first generation guys helped me, and I always tried to help the newer guys coming into in any way I can, advice and whatnot. I remember the last year we were rented out the first year to Fox for their
Oh, that's right. The first year
yeah.
Fox got football.
There were seven of us that came over to Fox. It was great. And then the second year we weren't coming back because Fox had the Super Bowl. So they didn't want us, CBS did not want us to make Fox look good. That's what they told us, which to me was ridiculous. So who took over my low ends? That was Mario Zecca. And I remember talking to Mario.
He's on the call. He wants to join
Oh,
in. Hold on. Let me
oh, is
let
he?
me ask him to did I hit him?
Yeah.
Yeah, you good? You good? Yeah, good.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah, we
see
got
it.
you.
All
I
right.
don't know if you remember. Do you remember we had a conversation before your first Super Bowl in New Orleans? And I said to you, don't try to be me. You need to be you because Sandy has to get used to your instincts on camera because you're his guy for the next X amount of years. He's going to forget about what I brought to the table after a couple of years. You're going to be his guy. And it's things like that to give advice. Try not to copy another cameraman, but learn from another cameraman. You know what I'm saying? Because like I
That's
keep
so
harping
that's
on
so true.
instinct. It
That's so
is.
true. Yeah.
And I even said that to Sandy. We would talk afterwards. I said, you can't think everybody's going to be me. Everyone is different. You're going to meet newer guys. You might meet guys who are better than me, which is great. But you have to he had to open up his eyes to embrace the freelance world into his world because he was used to having staff guys. Everywhere he went, he had staff guys.
Yeah, he was always good with me. He was very patient because I think of probably because of what you asked him to do. I'm going to be honest with you. I had to develop my own thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I did take one thing from you that I will never forget. Like, you cannot be afraid if you have a producer and director that are willing to give you the opportunity to go for shots and make pictures for them, and they can live with your mistakes. You can't. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
Got times I would have people say, "Hey, man, why are you shooting so tight?" I'm like, "I'm doing what the director and the producer want me to do. They've told me this. If you mess up and you miss something, just move on, get to the next shot, right? I mean, that's what you actually told me that as well.
Yeah.
Don't
The
worry
thing
about it.
about
Move to the next shot.
people say you always shoot tight, and I always said, yeah, I do shoot tight because it had been very effective over a lot of years. We had some great timely looks at certain replays, but what I found with some guys who think they shoot tight, it's a competition. I want to be as tight as Hulk is. It's not a question of being tight. It's when to know to be tight and when to be wide. A lot of the guys who or shoot tight, 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 tight don't know when to be wide. So to me, they're not a complete camera operator. All they're thinking about is tight, tight, tight. It's like the guy on Sunday night, sometimes the golf cart guy, he's following this guy tight. The guy is running back. You should never do that. Keep the shot here because it's too jarring for the viewer at home if you're
Yeah.
seeing this all the time. Why now? And he can move his head around all he wants, but the viewer at home is comfortable. It's like doing play-by-play for tennis. You have guys tilting down. No. Just let it play within the frame. Just widen out a little bit. Let the players run in the frame because the viewer at home is going to be distracted by the panning and the tilting all the time instead of letting the players run in within your frame. But that's just me.
No, I think what you said is true. Like you frame it the way you frame it, and when there's a window to make that move into a special shot, you go for it. I mean,
Right.
that's the way I always approach it. I know there are different spots in the field, like now I do a cart. I used to do low end zone like you, and like
Mhm.
that I know where I have to be out in time to show the feet in bounds, all that stuff. But then there's certain areas like, hey, you know what? Far side of the field, when I know I'm not in the mix really, I can go for something special like that. That's what you're talking about. And like, I would hear the noise and I'd be like, I'm just doing what I'm told, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
Maybe
when it's
they were just jealous because they didn't have the same opportunities that like you and I were given now.
yes,
Let's be honest,
you get a lot of freedom. When I was doing Major League Baseball World Series, I'd never done baseball before. This was all new, so I'm at low home. And shooting high speed, I was just following knuckleballs really tight and just not zooming as much because I didn't want to change the focal length of the lens. I would just do a little roll focus and maybe a little wide out because you wanted to see the ball coming in that game 7 of the was it the 91 World Series, Minnesota.
Jack Morris pitched 10 innings, right?
10 innings. That was unbelievable. The shots and we had Joe Assetti was directing, and he just let me do our thing, man. It was incredible because you could do.
I used to love how you would pan over to see the grip, and then you just follow from that.
You know, it's funny. Again, working with the analyst, Jim Cott and I were good buddies, and we'd always, try to get the finger split behind. If in slow-mo, one thing I learned about slow-mo, throughout anything you know about camera work, all your movements have to be fast. Whip pans, because when they play it back in slow-mo, it's going to look perfect. The first time I did it in 86 or whenever it was, I always found myself like a few seconds behind the play. Then I realized I have to pan quicker.
Yeah.
So I go from the face, a quick pan back to get the ball behind the head, and then the release, all of that, all tight. I love that. To me, that was a challenge. I was always a tight guy from day one. I never was scared about being out of focus.
Well, I'm the same boat. I just go.
You got to be fearless. You can't be afraid. And once the directors know what you're bringing to the table and they trust you, man, you're working with house money.
I think a big problem is some of the directors now, I don't think it's a control thing. They're just so fearful of someone missing something. And it's like when if you're going for something and they say, hey, I want you to get these great shots, and then you miss something. Oh, you missed it. Then the next time, what are you going to do? You're not going to go for it. You're going to say, okay, I guess I'm going to stay wide so I don't get this reaction from the director again.
Well, you have to take chances, and the production people have to allow you to take those chances. If you're going to be great, you have to take chances, but don't be stupid and try to be great.
Well, that's the key. I think you're right. Like, I'm going to be honest, like the football show that I do, and Richie Z and Rich Russo, they are cut from the same cloth as Sandy and Bob in that regard.
They grew up the CBS way.
Yes, and I think that's the right way, to be honest with you. Like, I think Fox follows more of a CBS model than the other 2 networks, well, the 3 networks, whatever they are now. Like, but like I just think it's like they realize the coverage of the game is the most important thing, but they do realize like little things here and there, these subtle shots of like reaction shots or just really tight pictures of the end of a play make a huge difference in the broadcast and separates them from other shows, right? I mean, that's the way I always viewed you guys when you did CBS. Like I watched, like, you get Singletary shot. You'd have I remember the game I watched. I said that the Hardy, the hit when Gary Reasons did that.
In Denver.
Dude, that was like phenomenal. That was like one of the best football plays I've ever seen. First, it was a goal line stand by the Giants, and he just launched himself and just, I think you backside of the end zone, right?
Yeah, right.
Saw him come and just meet him. He met Bobby Humphries and knocked him back. It was phenomenal.
When you get those kind of shots, it just adds it, doesn't
it? I think I got it there.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that was, again, a snowy day.
Oh,
Is it playing or not playing?
it's not playing. Don't worry about it. We'll get it later.
Yeah.
We're feeding back anyway.
It feeds back on this damn thing?
Yeah, when right, George, when you suck back on this thing, it feedback.
Yeah, that's why
I had to hit
my external speaker. I was getting feedback. But I love watching games now. I love watching great camera work. I really do, because I know what these guys are up against. The double-headed cranes and what type of lenses. I always had the biggest lens in the world. I always shot a Tele 95, so I was shooting at 2,400 millimeters. Where that people get overwhelmed by, I have 127-to-1 lens. Well, that's only the zoom ratio. It's all dictated where the millimeters start. If you're starting at 10 millimeters full wide times 127, now you're shooting some big time millimeters at the other end.
Right.
Because when I shoot Daytona years ago, I brought in a Canon of what was it? Was it a Tele 2000?
Tele 2000. I was just going to say.
It started at 25. 25 to 1,000. Put the 2 times extender in, and now your wide shot's 50 millimeters, but you're getting 2,000 on the other end.
Yeah, but if you're not concerned about your wide end, what's the difference, right? Yeah.
Well, at Giant Stadium, I'm shooting like that at 25. It was pretty tight. However, they didn't want me wide. They wanted me tighter. So if a play was coming in and I knew I was full wide, I would just pan because my panning to a catch would still be like a close-up without me having even to zoom in.
Mhm.
Now,
So-
let me, were you a crank or servo guy?
Oh, I'm a crank guy. Because one thing about a crank, I knew exactly where I was. Yeah, with the electric, if you get too excited or whatever, you hit the thing, you'll zoom out too fast and you have to
Right.
adjust the speed in the front. I'm a cranker. I am a cranker, man.
I love it. I love it.
Nope.
I know because did you ever switch? You always use crank? You didn't switch off depending on if you were doing a different thing? For golf too?
No, golf, I went electric because
Oh,
it
you
wasn't
did?
that critical. Like I said, golf to me was simple. It was never difficult to do. Really.
Yeah, he's running on the end of his lens. He needs to be. You need to have more control with your hand of the zoom. Correct. I mean, that's the way I've
Exactly,
always
you know.
viewed it. Yes.
So I mean,
Yeah, but you're
there's
lucky
just
now because you get the freaking servo crank. He has a crank that's an electronic crank. Canon makes them, and I don't even know if I don't even know if the other companies make them, but like
Fujinon does not. No, they don't. I have one. I use one though.
you have a Fujinon lens.
No, I use a Canon lens. I use a 122, and I have a servo crank. So I mean, it's all the benefits of a crank, but it's electric, so it's a little smoother. You on the
Well,
live, they look better.
Yeah, your 122 probably starts at 8.2 millimeters, right? It's
At
about 8
least,
millimeters
yes.
full wide, yeah. Because when I left, the 122s were in there, and I kept looking at the focal lengths, and it didn't impress me. I mean, yeah, you can get 1,800 millimeters, but you know,
Yeah. I mean, where I am now, like I'm on the cart, so I'm close to the action. So
and
I'll
you're
use
electric,
most of the
electric,
time. The only time I pull it out is like when I get near the goal line to show all that stuff,
right?
for that good reason, right?
But
yeah,
you
I
use
mean, everybody
electric
gets
zoom.
tied up with the glass and getting excited about how much glass you have, but a lot of that also depends upon how good the lighting is going to be. Because it's like if it's at a day game or a night game at stadium, like
Well, again,
or
I
how
always
good your video guy is too.
well, the video guy cannot manufacture light. But I always knew the old times when you would zoom in, you'd start getting portholing at the tail end of the lens. So I would always know exactly how far I could go. I was doing a baseball playoff game, and Stewart was pitching for the Oakland Athletics. It was Boston against Oakland, and we were in Oakland. And Dave Stewart, black gentleman, but black, really dark. But when I zoomed in, I knew his eyes were like white as, oh, it was unbelievable. But I knew when I zoomed in, I would porthole, so it would make that shot even more dramatic. When I went from here to here and he's looking right at me, the natural portholing made that shot even more dramatic.
Oh, so you purposely made your lens collapse. See, like that's knowing your
Yeah,
glass.
no,
When you talk
absolutely.
about knowing your tools and knowing your gear, that is key right there because a lot of guys would not know what that means.
In our CBS
He-
broadcast center, we have a guy who all he did was work on lenses. And when I wasn't assigned to a show, I would always go down to the lens shop and we'd take lenses apart. And he would show me exactly the inner workings of the lens as much as he could do in that lens shop before he'd send it out to Canon and Fujinon. And I learned a lot by, being around the lens guys and just trying to understand and try to explain to him what we do out in the field. And when the 50, a lot of guys don't know focal lengths on lens, but it always drove me crazy. We'd have a 50-to-1 lens, but then Canon came out with a tele 55. The regular 50-to-1 was 9.5 millimeters full wide. But the tele version of that started at 13.5. So guys would set up the lenses on golf and you widen out, you couldn't see the whole green. So I look on the side of the lens, they put the wrong 50 up there. They put the tele 50, but the guys didn't even know it. They just knew it was a 50-to-1 lens. They didn't understand the optics.
Oh, so if you don't have the wide end, and you pull back, you're looking at half a green now.
Well,
You might not have the hole.
Well, fortunately, we found that out before we went to air, so we just changed the lenses because a lot of guys didn't even know anything about a tele 55. But knowing all the lens companies like I did, I tried to really stay on the cutting edge of the mini lenses as well as the wide angles and everything else. So, know your craft. That's the thing, because you can be an asset to your producer and director. The first year in Daytona, I'm working the pits, and I have a 20-to-1 lens. That doesn't work in the pits because you have to stand so far back to maintain the proper focus. So we brought in, I recommended getting back then it was the 5.5 wide angle lenses. So now I could get physically close to my talent and whoever he was talking to without anybody running in between me. Because the further back you go, you got guys coming with tires going through you and everything else. So lens is important depending on what you're shooting.
Yeah,
Hey, George,
I think.
go ahead
Dave.
real fast. What do you think of the fad of the shallow depth of field?
I hate it.
I knew you would. That's why.
The shallow depth of field works. Use it for what it was designed to do. If I'm an NFL films camera guy where they build their shows around dramatics of a particular event, that camera is great. But I'll give an example. At the Masters, the winning golfer's coming off 18, he's walking up, and the only thing in focus is the winner. Me
Right.
personally, I want to see the jubilation of the crowd behind him. That's what it was all about, but they're all out of focus. Or those cameras, the focus keeps changing. We're doing a Super Bowl and our minicam guys going around, and it's going from me to Mario. It's going on its own. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I
think it's cool. There's a time and place for it. It's just not in the middle of a broadcast when you're cutting it in with those cameras like that. It just doesn't make any sense. Like for rollout stuff and feature stuff, it's fantastic. But I saw this video of this new footage and it looked great. They did a test in Charlotte a few weeks ago with Brian Lilly's crew. I mean, it looked really cool. But like, I think to myself, like, I don't know how that fits in. You're doing a Super Bowl. You can have a few of those, and they can.
Yeah, but you know what? Tracy
for
Wilson,
rollout stuff,
Tracy Wilson on the A crew at CBS, she's doing her opening on camera, and she looks like she's chroma keyed in.
I know. Yeah, it looks like a video game. It looks like a video game.
Yeah, it doesn't look.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do. I think it's so much of the young generation grows up like every other young generation playing video games.
Yeah.
And it used to be like the video games were trying to mimic the TV broadcast. And
That's
the game was trying to
reversed.
beat. Now it's the other way around. Now we're trying to mimic their look. That shallow depth of field and even the Skycam look is straight out of the video game. Like that was the look of every video game of every football game that you played as a kid.
But at least that cuts with the other equipment well. That's my concern is the way it cuts with the other equipment sometimes. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me, like to use that. But
when you look at the Fox World Series, I love the usage of the drone camera. I think that has tremendous. It made golf look better. World Series looks good. It's a nice setup shot. It's a nice transition shot, and the low base cameras, all the specialty looks. I was texting Brad last night saying I just love the way it looks. I mean, I like those specialty look cameras, but as years move on,
How do you feel about since we're on? How do you feel about the graphics? Like graphics now, three-dimensional giant graphics. You have the Skycam now going around, augmented reality stuff. Do you like all that?
I'm really fond of the graphics now because I know exactly where I am in the game. I know what the pitch count is now. I know the speed of the pitcher. I see the score. So there's a lot of things. But when we first started doing it at Daytona, you'd have to misframe your shot to get this graphic in. And I would always tell the Bob Fishman, who was doing Daytona, I said, I'm following a car 2 miles away, really tight. Now I have to kind of misframe the shot so you can get a graphic in. It was, it took a while to get used to the graphics coming in, but now the graphics don't bother me as much anymore. It's that shallow depth of field camera just drives me wild at times. Like you have a shallow depth of field now, Mario. Your background's out of focus.
Well, I don't want the background's not. It's okay. It's not that's why I did that.
Already looks great. He's got a wide angle lens, great depth of field. He's in focus. I don't know if I'm in focus, but whatever.
My dogs.
Hey George, I had a quick question. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Brendan. I'm a kid that Mario is actually mentoring. I had a question kind of going back to the specialty cameras. Do you have like a favorite specialty camera, like the gimbal, the steady, the jib, or drone, or any of those special? Do you have like one that you like the most?
Now I really sound old. The gimbal came in. I don't have any experience with that. The Steadicam I've tried it on. You can make a bad cameraman really look good with a Steadicam.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it, because the Steadicam normally has a wide angle lens on it. You have a device that keeps it level. We had to do things on our own, with strong shoulders to be able to make moves that aren't jittery with a wide angle lens.
Yeah.
I like the jibs. I like all that stuff. But basically, I just shot high speed. And
Okay.
yeah, if like when we lost the NFL football, Steve Sable asked me to come to work at NFL Films.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow, that was a pretty good compliment. And, a lot of their camera guys wanted me to come and do some stuff for them, but, I couldn't leave CBS after all those years. I'm well invested. Everybody knows me. I know them. I know where to go to get things done. But so you want to be a camera guy?
Yes, sir. That's my dream.
Well, follow Mario. Mario, you better train him well, man.
I'm doing my best with
Yep.
him. He's a good kid. I like Brandon a lot.
Mario's helped me out a lot. Last year I had some opportunities to run high end zone, and I sent my clips to Mario, and he gave me some great feedback, and I've been able to build on that so far this year. I'm a local to Lafayette, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
I went to school at Purdue, and so I graduated Purdue, and I've been freelancing just in the area still. So since I've graduated, I've just stayed in the area, and I've now gotten some chances to film some Purdue football games. And so this year, I've gotten a chance to film 4 Purdue football games.
Hold on. Hold
All
on. You're not filming.
Yeah, right.
shooting,
You're shooting or recording. I always tell
shooting.
people,
Yes.
we don't do film. We're recording.
My bad. My
people.
bad.
Right. You get into an interview process with management and whatnot. You want to talk proper
Nope.
language. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
right. You're right.
My advice to you is anytime you get on camera and always watch what other guys are doing. Always
Mhm.
watch what they're doing. If they make a mistake, see what mistake they made. If they do something great, see how they did it great, because that's your experience, and that'll help you down the line.
Yeah. One of the
And
things
then-
I love doing is when I'm working utility, always trying to be like the first grip so I can be right next to the camera guy so I can like watch what he's shooting. And I'm always playing the mental game myself of, all right, what would I be shooting if I was the camera guy next to me? And am I shooting what he's shooting? And
Yeah.
so I'm always trying to, compare myself to like the guy that I'm working with. I got a
Well, one
chance
of-
to work with NBC's college football A crew. And
Mhm.
so I was playing that game with that camera guy because I think the next day he flew out to do Sunday night football. So,
Well, I
yeah.
tell you, if you're going to be, there's a definite skill set difference between being a hard camera guy and a mini guy. The
Oh,
main
yeah.
thing, the basics for a mini guy that you're going to have to conquer is always keeping your shot level. I mean, level, not waddling. Because you remember, the viewer at home doesn't want to see a waddling shot, nor does the director.
Yeah.
Keep it level, frame perfectly. Sometimes you don't have to move your body. You could just slightly move your shoulder a little bit, and you can slide into a shot. And focus is critical. I don't ever want to hear that you were out of focus. Cameramen are never supposed to be out of focus.
Yeah.
Never. Never. When in doubt, widen out a little bit. If you feel that you're losing focus, just widen out so softly, because you'll change the focal length, you'll change the depth of field. You can cheat until you build enough confidence where if a subject is moving in and out, you could do a slight roll focus that nobody will ever know you're doing, but you know you're doing it. It's all natural feel. And whenever you can put a camera on your shoulder, even if you're not doing a game, a mini guy at a football game, whatever, put his camera on if he lets you, and just stand around and just practice panning. And when you pan, it's got to be level. Can't be this. You know what I'm saying? Just nice and easy. Back and forth. So you get because that camera has to be a part of your body.
Yeah.
It has to be a part of your body. You can't tense up. If you tense up, then it's going to go to shit, really. So
yeah. You don't want people to notice your breathing. Your breathing is important.
Yeah.
Like it's
especially
very
on a tight close-up. You want to hold your breath as best you can, but you'll develop the techniques. Yeah, you'll stub your toes every now and again, but you learn from stubbing your toes. And never be afraid of asking camera guys questions. That's how you're going to learn. Some will be very good and give you great answers. Others might blow you off, but you'll know who to go to. You know to go to guys.
Hey, Brendan, let me ask you, did the camera guy, did you work with, did he talk to you about what he expected beforehand? Or did he just say,
Expected of me is like his grip.
yeah, did he say like, hey, listen, I'm going to go work, I work the field this way, I'm going to go up and down the field, I'm going to go behind the end zone.
We talked about those things. Yep, we had a plan. So I knew I had enough cords to get him wherever he needed to go, and we were able to get everywhere flawlessly. So
Yeah,
yeah.
see, when I do handheld, I would always talk to my utilities about
Mhm.
what the expectations were. Like, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm
Right.
not going to have to tell you guys. I can't tell you guys what I'm doing when this
Yeah.
happens. You just have to know I'm going to be going this way when the play is going to happen. And the second
Yep.
thing I would always go over with my utilities is like, listen, be a second set of eyes. If I'm a
Mhm.
storyteller, Hulk's a storyteller, Mario's a storyteller, you're a storyteller. We tell stories with our cameras and our pictures. So if you're a second set of eyes. If you see something I'm shooting the game and you're on your utility, you're paying attention to me, the game, but you see what's going on the bench. And if you saw
Mhm.
somebody getting, finger yelled
Yeah,
at
two
by a player,
players yelling at
and it's
each other.
interesting to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you could you build a relationship with the camera guy and say, hey, look, that's good information to give to a guy. And that's helpful. That's what you
Yep.
want to try to be helpful.
And
Mhm.
you have to be able to anticipate as the cable guy behind the camera, anticipate where he's going. If you're doing a football game, keep an eye on the clock because you may have to go from the left 20 to the right 20 and get down here before the next play. And you realize a lot of still photographers run around the field. So you have to anticipate, just
Yep.
like the second cable guy's got to anticipate that movement too. The more you anticipate, because I always told my cable guys, listen, I get credit, you guys get credit. I get credit to the director, you get credit to my tech manager and management when I go back to New York and I report what has gone on with people they've hired locally. Because I was always big
Mhm.
promoting great utility people because
Yeah.
it's an important job. I can't do it. I can't achieve what I want to achieve if I don't have a good cable guys behind me. It's really that simple.
Mhm.
Anticipation is and looking around, like Mario said, just pay attention to what's going on and protect your camera guy because sometimes he's going to be blinded on the right side.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
Well,
that's
thank you.
sure.
That's great advice. Yeah.
No
I
problem.
I had a buddy actually recently. He was like the handheld for one of these Purdue games, and he had some utilities that weren't paying attention, and he had to run to get a field goal. As he ran out there, I guess they weren't paying attention and they weren't coiling, and he almost had the camera fall off his shoulder because he was running, and well, they didn't move.
Well, I
So
always tell the utility
he
guy,
gave them a earful afterwards.
you're not there to watch the game. You're there to
Yep.
watch your camera operator. And that's very
Mhm.
important because my youngest son, before he got into business, he was working, he worked with Don on a couple of golf tournaments and a couple of football games.
Donnie
Yeah. And
Carnelli.
like you said, he had to pay attention to get
Mhm.
Donnie to where he had to be. Even Jim
Yep.
Kimmons, he worked for Jim Kimmons. I know Jimmy well. Jimmy could be a little hard-assed at times, but he expects 100% out of his cable guys. And that's your function. If you're a great cable guy, that's going to open up a lot of doors for you going forward. If you're lazy as a
Mhm.
cable guy, you're not going anywhere because the word's going to spread.
That's right.
Mhm.
Build
You're not
friends
gonna
and
get a second
relationships.
chance either. Fuck that.
Mhm.
No kidding.
You're not gonna get a second chance from me, at least.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna get kicked out of this library. Things close. They just made an announcement that they're gonna close soon, so I gotta wrap this up. This was awesome. Hulk, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time taking the time to talk to me and sharing your insights, man. I would love to do this again. I'm gonna definitely take you up on hooking up Davey Finch and bringing
Yeah.
in some of the other CBS guys and just doing a round table with you guys and going through the stories and the experiences because there's so much there with you guys, and it's such a unique experience because those network careers are never going to be seen again. So to be
Yeah.
able to pick your brains and learn from you guys is so important it was important for my generation, and I think it's very important for the next generation too.
Well, I always felt it was important for a lot of the staff guys to, help the newer guys coming in, because, if I went in to do Monday Night Football, I wouldn't know a lot of guys and I could get a shitty panhead or bad panhandles, but there would always be somebody to help you out to get you where you need to be. Give this guy the proper tools so he can do what he's there to do. If he doesn't have the right panhandle, or he has a zoom lens that's jumping because the cable wasn't put in properly, he's going to look shitty in the eyes of a new director that you're just working with. So I just like, talking to new people and just giving them the advice that I have and taking 100 questions because we could talk all we want, but it's the questions that need to come forward that I could really help you guys go forward and do your thing.
For sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you very
The
much, Artie.
meeting,
This
I
was fun. I
appreciate it,
really
man.
appreciate this.
Not more than me, man. George, this was amazing for me.
Thank you, guys. This was great.
I love it.
All right.
I'm gonna,
All right,
well,
keep
hopefully
in
I'm
touch.
gonna have my guy edit it, cover up some of the videos with some of the work that you did. This wasn't the plan to be doing this out of the library. I hope when I go home I got power at least, because there's a football game on
Yeah.
that I'd like to watch too, I guess. But I don't know, man. This was
right.
great.
This has
I
been
know
great.
that whoever watches this is gonna learn a lot and
I hope so.
really appreciate it.
All right. Tell Cornelia I said hi, Mario.
I will. Take care, George.
Love him. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
thanks
much.
a lot. Crew
All right.
Call Live, Thursday, 7 p.m. Crew Call Live, Thursday, 7 p.m. Every week, I'm going to try to bring in another legend. But, George, you were amazing, man. Thanks so much, man.
All
I
right. Thanks,
appreciate
pal.
it.
Good night
Best
to
to you.
everyone.
Thank you, George.